Hello and welcome. This is tagged thanks to Victoria, every bit different. Hosko, I have a few bones to pick with you today. One is
coming firing.
This cup with a chewing gum stuck to the side of it. How do you think that is acceptable? Explain to me how that's acceptable. There's a bin right beside you.
Well, you kindly bought me a coffee this morning. I had chewy in my mouth. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't say I had intentions of having the chewy after I had my coffee. But I don't know, I wasn't close enough to a bin that I thought I'd put it on the side of the cup.
Well, I don't know. Your brain works in wonderful ways, but there's an awful lot of questions. I have another question actually as well, because I watched your game at the weekend. Well done. Delighted to have Hosko back on the field, scoring 2 goals. But something struck me from the very start was that you kept coming on and off and having a massage. And I was like, why did you need that much treatment? Like, were you being a bit of a princess, a bit of a diva? Like, talk me through that.
Well, you're not the first person to say this because I've been ripped into by my teammates, Maddie Shevlin in particular. So I'm going to throw her under the bus.
She's not so bad herself.
I know. She is a little bit of a princess
Hot
too.
kettle black.
Well, yes, I got out there. I'm going to blame this on our physios because, and when I say blame, I'm very grateful. Don't get me wrong. We obviously love a day spa. You love a nighttime massage. I did think about you actually yesterday when I went and got a massage and I saw the bright neon lights around a sign with the big stairway to heaven. And I thought of you, but I was lucky enough, I got out there and played. Physios said that every time I come and see me, we'll give you a massage and make sure that your hamstring stays warm. So it's not my fault. But yes, I did feel like I was at a day spa for the whole day.
Well, Hosko was the only thing I saw. I was like, apart from the 2 goals, obviously, that you scored, that we're very proud of you for that. I was like, she's, scored a goal, quick massage, scored a goal, quick massage. Like, that was kind of the rotation that you were doing. But anyway.
Hey, if it's a winning formula, don't change
100%, I'm with you. But to talk about GWS and the story of the game, obviously, you won. So it was a special game for you, having not played or trained that much in the preseason. And then to go out and win the game and kick 2 goals yourself. How did it feel? How did your hamstring feel? How's your body pulled up?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. I've spoken about it a number of times that I've struggled probably for the last 2 years or 2 seasons with hamstring problems. And it was just honestly so nice to get back out there and play. Like, I've mentioned as well, I haven't had a massive preseason. Most of it's been spent in sort of that rehab return to play space. So I've spent a lot of time in the gym and straight line running and admiring everyone that's training. So for me, it was, I just absolutely loved being back out there and playing with my friends. And to get a win was even more special. KB gave me a gift of my first goal. You should have seen it, if you didn't. My hands were literally shaking like this when I had the goal, but I was, to snap back out of that and go, you've got a routine, make sure you stick to your routine and kick to goal. It was just really cool to, be back out there and have a run around and get through the game. So I'm stoked right now. I feel great. I feel like I've been hit by a bus and probably a double-decker bus. Yeah. It's that, that like whiplash feeling when you wake up the next morning and your neck's really sore. I've got a little bit of that, but I also had an hour massage today again, so it works.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing, but I think we're heading into the condensed fixture obviously, so it's a quick turnaround for you guys. You're playing on Saturday again.
Yes, yeah, so we've got Sydney up in Coffs Harbour actually, so we'll play off a 6-day turnaround, and then some of the teams as well. You guys we're lucky. We only have 5 to 6 days max for our whole condensed fixture, but there's other teams that come off 3 days.
Yeah, so we played Hawthorn at the weekend, disappointing loss for us. I think we have a lot of learnings to take from that. So we have time tonight to reflect and just assess what went on.
What did go on?
It was just a really fast moving game, and I feel like our process and our structure fell away at times, and I think like the philosophy of what we're trying to do, I didn't feel like we executed that. But I think, it is the start of a new coach, a couple of new players, we had a couple of debutants, also a couple of injuries as well. That's not an excuse. Hawthorn were a very good team. They moved the ball really quickly and we were exposed at times, but we have to learn really quickly in the AFLW environment, but particularly when the condensed fixture is coming. So we don't have that much time to have a post-mortem on it. We're disappointed, we move on, we take the learnings and we play Brisbane on Friday, then we play West Coast at Icon on Tuesday, and then we play again on the Sunday. So it's a very quick turnaround with injuries and all those other concerns, but I think we're all excited about it in another way. I'm happy that we get to play more games, and that's all you want. We also had our skipper back. We had Brie Davey back at the weekend, so you got to celebrate these things. We really missed her against Sydney, so to have her back was a massive threat for us, and looking forward to seeing her after getting another game under her belt. And then Hawthorn obviously had injuries to Casey Sheriff, which is disappointing. I think a broken leg it seems to be. So that was disappointing. Anya McDonough also went down with a hand injury. Hopefully that improves. I'm not sure what the results of that are. I think she's getting scans today. But yeah, so there's a lot happening in AFLW. As you know, there's injuries coming and going, and yeah, there's a lot going on.
Speaking of injuries, again, it's always a talking point is around ACLs and females in sport, in particular AFLW at the moment. It's quite the talking point. Our thoughts are going to Janelle Cuthbertson, who's captain of Port Adelaide, who did her ACL on the weekend on the G as well, and then Chloe Malloy is another one that came out this week as well. So that's 2 ACLs in the space of 1 week. We've seen a number of girls as well, Mua Laloifi, also my teammate as well, going down. So I think, this space, touch wood, we don't want any more injuries as well. But, it does ask the question around how's this condensed fixturing? How do high-performance teams and managers manage the players across this period? And I don't know about you guys. Has your high-performance manager spoken to you about how you're going to train in those quick turnarounds?
Yeah, well, I think the point is that you won't do as much training as you normally do. That we're all focusing on recovery, getting a bit more time. Massages.
You say it so eloquently.
Massage. What do you say?
Massage. Yet you're the one that can't read a sign and know not to walk up the stairs with neon lights.
The Irish accent, look. But I think that we just need to focus on recovery, and just as I said, you have to switch on really quickly. You're you can't afford too much time to reflect on one game. You're going into the next one straight away. But yeah, obviously the massive thing is the sad news about Chloe Malloy and her ACL.
You were her teammate. She was your teammate as well.
It's just so disappointing to see. You can't imagine what those players are going through internally. And right now they have the support of the whole of the AFLW world, the AFL world, and also their teammates. But what happens in a couple of weeks' time when it all dies down and they're essentially left with themselves and their injury, and when they have to deal with that day-to-day grind of what that looks like. So right now, I'm sure they're feeling all the love and support in the world, but it's the continued support that those players need. And also both those players, Janelle and Chloe Malloy, are both captains of their team, so they also have to lead as well, and lead by example, which is a really difficult thing to do when you're going through that turmoil yourself. But to talk about Chloe Malloy and how she lied to her teammates or whatever, what's your thoughts on that?
I think to Chloe's credit as well, she's got team first mentality. So I think, you see it in the media, and it came out, Scotty Gowans came out as well and said, that it was Chloe's choice, and she really wanted to make sure that her teammates were focused on the game, because we talk about the impact that has on your teammates. I can tell you now, when Caitlin Cox and Montana McKinnon did theirs, you genuinely sit there.
You almost lose sleep for them. Yeah.
And you just have empathy. I think, especially anyone that's done an injury, in a soft tissue kind of injury, that it's the worst thing in the world for 2 weeks, and then it just gives you a bit of perspective. So, I think Chloe's done the right thing by her team, and, I think it's great that they went out there. She told them afterwards. And you're damned if you do, damned if you don't either way, right?
That's the thing. I think that Chloe knows her team, so she knows what's best for them. Scotty Gowans knows his team, and they know what's best for them. So we look at these situations from the outside looking in, and everyone can have their opinions, but the reality is they know what's best for their group, and they did what they felt was best at the time. And obviously in the heat of emotions, when things happen as well, you make decisions at that time that whether they're right or wrong, it's what felt right at the time. So yeah, whatever decision you want to make when you're going through what you're going through, I support it.
And huge loss for Sydney too. Now, your captain, arguably your best player, she's huge, made that move to Sydney in order to also help grow the Sydney market of AFLW, and I think she's done an outstanding job as an ambassador for AFLW, but an ambassador for New South Wales AFLW. So, Chloe, we're here for you as well. I think everyone is across the board. I think we all just really feel for you at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. Wishing Chloe the very best in her recovery.
Well, on a positive note, though, we look at Brisbane and Ali Anderson.
Yes.
Now, she was huge on the weekend. She equaled or broke the disposal record for most disposals in a game.
43 disposals.
Which is insane. You think about the time that you have on ground. What are we playing? 15 minutes in time on, or 17 minutes? Quarters.
What is I'd love to know the record in the men's game.
I think it came out. Producer Tegan.
us.
AFLW Nuffies, please hit us up.
Let us know.
Yeah, I think, it's just outstanding. You think that her work rate, and we've seen she obviously won the league best and fairest 54. A couple of years back. There you
54.
Go. Tom Mitchell was 54, so she's not far off. I'd sit there and get behind her. Do you reckon anyone could get to 54 disposals in an AFLW game at the current time that it stands?
The current time is the part, really. Like, that's the difference, isn't it? I think, someone like Ali Anderson, Astrodell, these players are up there, Monconti. So who knows?
I just don't understand, because I struggle to get my hands on the ball as it is, let alone 42 times.
Okay, so Hosko, something that I'm really passionate about and have a couple of opinions on is GPS tracking. So there was an article done about how in pro sports around the world that GPS tracking is used everywhere. But AFLW players, there's been a report done by Swinburne University that some AFLW players are uncomfortable with it. Can I get your thoughts on that, and how important, even for you as a player who was injured, coming back from injury, how important GPS was for you?
I find that so fascinating. Swinburne's one of our sponsors at Richmond as well, or affiliations, but I'm baffled at players that say they don't like the GPS data, or where they don't find it helpful. Because for me, I sit there and go, I want more data. It helps me back up your training, your games, and there's genuine theory behind having GPS data. So when I was injured as well, it's to manage my load. Our high performance manager, Eliza, she'd sit there and she thoroughly looks through everything. It's from what kind of speeds did I hit before I did my hamstring, what kind of speeds did I hit when I redid it, what exposure loads was I put out to, like was it high speed running, all of that kind of stuff. So I find it really fascinating when people say they don't like it, because I love the data, and I think it's severely important to making sure that you get the right loads into players and programming properly.
Yeah, 100%. And you think about our condensed fixture coming up, it's going to be an integral part for our high performance team to see where we're at, who's doing what loads. And I think there's as well, good coaching is good communication.
Yes.
And good communication comes from data and information that we have. So I'm with you on this. I need as much information as I can get. From when I transitioned between Melbourne Victory and Collingwood, I got the data from Collingwood and then sent it across to Victory, and Victory sent the data across to Collingwood, so that they could understand what I was doing while I was away, and Victory could understand what I've done to date and how we could marry the two worlds together. Now, for me, when I went over to play soccer, my feet were really sore. I couldn't really understand why. And then I looked at the GPS data. Too much dancing. So when I looked at the data, I was like, I'm actually doing a lot more acceleration load in soccer, change of direction, all that. And I said, okay, that makes sense. Now I alter my program for that. Then I had groin issues early days when I went over across to soccer, and it was because I was doing more lateral movement than I was straight line running or multi-directional. So it was so beneficial for me when I was transitioning sports. But it just has such a big impact. I think players really need it, and I'm curious as to why people wouldn't like it. Is it the shaming part? Is it the fact that the data is shared with your whole team, and then there's a ranking system in it? And sometimes I think, as AFLW players, we want to be challenged and we want our game to progress quickly. So we need to get on board and evolve with the times and the changing times of sport and keep progressing. So I think things like that really hold us back.
Well, there's so much to talk about and unpack in that part, because I think as professional athletes, I think that's really important and pivotal to being in that elite environment. Because if you can't sit there and look at GPS data and go, shit, I was really down on high speed today when I should be a high speed player.
Yeah.
or, you know, my running capacity just isn't up to the standard, I think that's what helps create those environments. I know our, you know, whole preseason was set out on hitting certain metrics, and I don't know about you at Collingwood, but the metrics we use is meters per minute as well. So, you know, obviously how many meters are you running per minute? Try and get a high output through that. It's high speed running, then you use your sprints, acceleration and deceleration, and then overall player load. There are a lot of the key metrics that we use. Is there anything different that Collingwood uses?
No, we're the same, and obviously, just your overall distance. But like you said, you look at it from a week perspective as well. What do you need to do in a week to prepare yourself for a game at the weekend? But for me as well, if my body's not okay and I look at my GPS and I can figure out it's because I've trained at a certain intensity and that's why my body's sore, that gives me peace of mind. But when I don't have that information, so say when I went back to Ireland and we didn't have GPS in an amateur setup, my mind was doing spirals because I was like, my body's so sore, I haven't done that much. Why? And I needed that data. So for me, I just think it's an integral part.
Well, I think back to as well, like it creates a lot of competition. I remember one of our GPS data's being sent out to the group, and Katie Brennan hit an all-time record for speed. She hit 60 kilometers. Now, what she had done was she left her GPS in the back of her sports bra, and she had driven off down Punt Road, and she hit 60 k's. So you know, it encourages a little bit of lighthearted, I guess, competition amongst your teammates. All right, everyone, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who is very, very special, new to our show on Tagged. Now, I need to look at my notes because I want to make sure that I pronounce this properly. You're obviously a scientist, self-confessed nerd, but you're an astrophysicist. Damn it, I knew I would stuff it up. Astrophysicist and an AI expert, and you've recently launched a new book, Is My Phone Reading My Mind? Welcome, Dr. Matt Agnew.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you for coming here. Now, talk to us a little bit about your book.
So it's as you said, it's all about AI and specifically the ethics around AI. And it is written for a younger demo. I've made it accessible to the 8 to 12 demographic, but it's not written in a way that parents and adults won't find it really useful as well. And I wanted a book that was something that reached that younger demo, but it was laying the foundation so everyone had a fundamental understanding of what AI is, what it can do, what it can't do, and sort of the risks and ethical considerations around it.
First things first, Matt, before we get into the AIA, the Collingwood AFLW grant, we want to talk to you about the AFLW, and do you follow it? Is there players that you follow? And then we can deep dive into the AI discussion.
So I do follow Port Adelaide. I haven't been quite as switched on this year, both for AFLW and AFL. But yes, no, I do barrack for Port Adelaide.
Ooh.
Did you watch the game at the weekend? The game on the MCG, the Western Bulldogs and Port Adelaide game?
No, I was entertaining some friends in town, so I didn't get to watch it, but I was following along with the scoring, so it was good to see the girls get up, considering the boys didn't. So
they have another chance.
Yeah.
So when we talk about AI, obviously we want to get more information on this. I think that intelligence is making something complicated sound simple. I think AI seems to do that in abundance. Can you talk to us a bit more about it? Like, the questions we have are, are our phones truly listening to us? Is it making us dumbing us down essentially and not allowing the human brain to think for itself? Like, is it making life a bit too easy? Will we stop trusting ourselves because we go, we can get that answer from AI? So talk to us a bit about what you know on that.
Yeah, so there's a few things to unpack there.
Yes,
it's quite a long
many
question.
levels.
So I guess the first, is it listening to us? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that obviously you can address, like, hey Siri, hey Alexa, so it's got to be listening for those prompts, but it's not recording what you're saying. It's not processing that data. It does feel that way because there is really sophisticated algorithms behind the scene. They're tracking what you do, your behaviors, your actions, how long you pause on things when you're doom scrolling, and it uses those to try and guess what your interests are and what you're looking for.
Well, when you say they, so in my head, I have a vision of Santa and his elves. So I'm thinking that AI is someone magical, like it's a room full of people that are sitting there and watching and listening. I don't know what AI is. Like, I'm that dumb idiot. Dumb it down for me. And what is AI?
So AI is kind of an umbrella term for any algorithm that sort of learns from data and has an element of autonomy to it. So some AI can be, I think immediately people are jumping to ChatGPT when they think of AI, and that's because it has this sort of human mimicry in how it converses with you. But AI can be much simpler. It can be things like credit card fraud detection. So just identifying when there's an anomalous transaction in your credit card data and identifying that's probably not Sarah making that transaction. Things like Netflix recommendation engines. You've got tens of thousands of shows and TV to watch on Netflix, but rather than that, you get served up, here's a dozen that we think you'll like. And that's based on what you liked previously, but also what people who enjoy similar shows to you also like and what they've watched that you haven't, that they enjoyed. So there's these kind of other ways that algorithms can be working behind the scenes, doing this sort of intelligent behavior that also improves and enriches your lives and makes it kind of easier.
So there's not little people in a room doing all the behind the scenes stuff.
No, I mean, there's certainly at some point little people were coding up and writing the algorithms themselves. But in terms of how AI is operating now, it's essentially these big algorithms that take in huge amounts of data. We're talking not just terabytes, but often petabytes of data, which is 1,000 terabytes. So it's taking huge amounts of data, it's processing it, it's figuring out and learning things, and then it's able to use that to, in the example of ChatGPT, basically create human-like conversation.
But I think, like, as well,
So many questions.
for me, I'm like, it's not something that I use at all. I need to
bullshit.
use it
Bullshit.
more.
Rowey has used AI for many exams.
I invented AI. So when I was in uni, I used this website called Fiverr.com, and I thought I was the only one who knew about it. Is that a version of AI?
No, Fiverr, are you getting people to do things for $5?
I
€5.
paid them. The difference is I had to pay them $5 to do my uni assignments.
Yes.
That's fraud.
It's
Rowey.
almost
That
like-
is not AI.
It's like
I just
analog
change
intelligence.
the words and then make it my own.
You can see how this dynamic works.
Yeah.
Rowey asks me a question, I then translate and give her the algorithm.
Yeah. So, you might not be using generative AI, so ChatGPT, Midjourney, these ones that can create images or video or audio. You might not be using them, but you'd be using AI in a number of other aspects of your life. So I suggest, the Netflix recommendation engine's one. Google Maps, when you go from A to B, there's an element of AI programming behind the scenes.
That happened to me this morning.
Yeah.
Literally, I had no inkling of coming to Docklands, but my phone knows that I'm meant to be here. It popped up as a suggestion to come to Burke Street.
Yeah. So it learns where you're going, what time you go. If you haven't started your journey, why not? Do you need a gentle reminder? So there's all these things that would be in your life that you're using. Almost any time you use a piece of technology, it's probably got some element of artificial intelligence in there in some capacity. So, I think generative AI, some people aren't using yet. They haven't, incorporated ChatGPT into their workflow or whatever, but there'd be certainly elements of AI in various other aspects of your life that you're using.
Yeah, and I think as well in like a fast-moving business world, I spoke to my dad about it last night and he was like, well, if you're not using it, you're stupid to not use it because that's the way the world is going, which is crazy to think. And obviously it's also coming into sport now with the coaching decisions assistants where you can make AI is going to help. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but AI is going to help coaches make decisions based off real-time stats in a game. Can you talk to us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so, and I'm not fully across the algorithm and how it would go about it, but essentially you could look at whatever the data they have available for every recorded game, and you could use AI to track things around player interchange numbers, how far they're moving, meters gained, disposals, efficiencies, all these kind of stats that come through live could then be fed into a well-trained algorithm that could help indicate what the next, tactical change might be to, gain us an advantage. So how effective it is, unsure, because there's with things like this where you have so much human element that's very unpredictable at times. There's not going to be, it's not a perfect, A plus B equals C kind of situation, but it's definitely going to provide more data, and typically the more data you have, the more informed your decisions are, and so you can make more tactical and strategic decisions to hopefully get the leg up on the competition.
So there's obviously huge positives to AI. Rowey's found herself in a little bit of a shit situation at times where somehow her mum and dad, definitely her mum, now has access to all of her photos, messages, to her iCloud.
Right, okay.
Now this is...
That's brave.
Yeah. No, she didn't mean it. Obviously didn't mean it. I'm not sure if this is AI or if this is human error now.
Yeah.
But what are some of the negatives around AI or potentially that you've seen?
Yeah, so basically ungoverned or unregulated AI can be very dangerous. And I actually use in my book an example around AFLW about how do you end up with these sort of sexist algorithms. And the example I use is if you fed a algorithm that could take in images and figure out, am I looking at a game of football? And so you feed it in, you just go on the internet and you draw down, 100,000 images. Because historically AFL has been played by men at the professional level until when the AFLW came around, you're overwhelmingly feeding the algorithm 99% of the images are men playing football. You now show the trained algorithm, a photo of an AFLW game and it says that's not football. And so you've accidentally trained a sexist algorithm just because the data was so skewed towards, okay, a football game has men playing it. And so you didn't go out to create a sexist algorithm, but because the data had this bias in it, you inadvertently created one. And so that's an example of, you're not even thinking about it, you're just like, yep, I'm creating an algorithm that can identify if it's a football game in the image or not. And just by feeding it data without thinking about it, you've created this sexist algorithm. And that's very easy to happen because there's bias in the data, because it's a reflection of the bias in reality. And there's examples of racist algorithms, sexist algorithms, these sort of things that have came about, not because, there was some sinister person saying, I'm going to create a sexist algorithm, but because the data that was fed in was not properly balanced and measured and created a more equitable and fair example of reality rather than the bias that was systemic.
Yeah, well, I mean, I literally could ask so many questions and talk about this for hours. I still don't understand AI as much as you have, but what I will do, I'm going to read your book. In true style, we still make human errors, and you forgot to bring your book today to show everyone. But don't worry, nonetheless, we will make sure that we show everyone, get a nice picture. It is called Is My Phone Reading My Mind? Dr. Matt Agnew, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Cheers.
All right, Rowey, it's time for our tagged list. Thanks to Victoria, every bit different. Hit me with your tagged list.
So my tagged list, I have a place called Inner Studios. Have you been?
No.
So basically it's a recovery place where there's a sauna, ice bath and a breathwork studio. It's owned by an ex-Pies player, Ben Sinclair, but it's just so zen, so peaceful. I love going there on a Sunday after a game and you can just go switch off and do your own thing, but it feels like you're in a day spa. We love a spa. So
we always love a spa. Anyone else listening? We love spas.
So tell us, where's your place?
Well, I haven't been there yet, but I'm heading to Dandenong Ranges. So I've done a lot around Dandenong and Yarra Valley area, plenty of wineries out there as well, but I'm excited because we're now in spring, it is cherry blossom season, and I know that Yarra Valley and Dandenong Ranges are stunning in springtime, so I'm excited to head to Alfred Nichols Gardens, which is apparently it's got some stunning views, a lovely lake at the bottom, but I've been told there's plenty of activities to do out there, lovely walks, and I'm super excited to do that this week.
That sounds like a lovely place to visit and also a lovely time to wrap up the episode.
Sounds good. We are out of time, but make sure you tune in next week because we have St Kilda superstar Liv Vesely coming in. So make sure you give us a like, follow, listen and share, and we'll see you next week. Bye!
Catch you next week on Tagged.